Okay, hi everyone. You can stay muted. Feel free to wave and say hi to all your friends. We're going to wait as some more girls join us, and then we're going to formally start. Hello, hello. I'm going to unmute you. Hello, we've got a lot of Sydney friends on already. Sydney girls seem to be more timely than our Melbourne girls.
That's okay.
So we're going to start. We'll give it a minute and then we'll get started. Okie dokes. Welcome, girls. Today's a really powerful day, and I'm going to ask that all of you stay on mute for as long as we begin, unless you're told to unmute yourself. But it's a really special and exciting moment to be gathering together virtually with so many people from across Melbourne. See the Sydney faces that popped up right away. Good on you girls for being so timely. And starting to see the Melbourne girls coming in as well. And we're going to start off really talking about why we're having a Farbrengen today. Why today, in the middle of a random day of the week, after a busy Pesach season, is a time that we should all put our foot on the brake and start really joining forces together, gathering from Melbourne and Sydney and spending time to really focus on what the day is about. So I'm going to share my screen and show you a video of the Rebbe that happened 29 years ago. And then I'm going to hand over the proverbial microphone to our very gifted speaker, who's going to share some reflections on the thoughts of the day. But 29 years ago, during what appeared to be a regular evening in 770, the Rebbe was saying a sicha, and then the Rebbe got very, very serious. And the Rebbe said words that the Hasidim had never heard before. He said that everything he'd been investing till this point was all for nothing. And now it's really being given over to us, completely given over to us. He's relying on us to do the job. And the Hasidim were astounded, as you can imagine, and weren't quite sure what to make of those words. And this little video clip is going to show you a woman who shared her heartfelt pain. She had lost her son, and I'm not sure how exactly, but she lost her son, and she came to the Rebbe the next week and cried the way all Hasidim did, like, we were relying on you. And you'll see the way the Rebbe responds, and then we'll hand it over. So I'm going to share my screen now together with you all. Let's see it.
Freitag und wir Eltern so zweimal müssen. Wir Hulu gehen wir wohl geschrien mit Anemes, wohl genannt mit Anemes, ist eine sichere Sache, als Moschich wohl schon lange gekommen, zusammen mit der Gula Amitis war schlimm. Was ich konnte tun, du weiß ich nicht. Weil im Alter ist er getan, bis ist der Hevel, weil Lorik, sie gar nicht mit der Reise voll mit gebliebenen Golus. Und was noch mehr, mit geblieben mit der Gol in den Golus, pnim reichet, wenn geht, Avedes Hashem. Und kommt über Kama Pomin. Mir hat einzige Sache, was ich kann noch tun, gibt das über jeder von euch und tut alles, was ihr kennt und setzt ein Robling in Moschirchen, denke vom Yad Mamosh in
Farbrengen, the Rebbe once turned to his Hasidim and said, Ich hab getan alles was ich kann. What more can I do so that all the Yidden should sincerely cry out to Hashem and bring Mashiach? What was done till now had no effect, since we still find ourselves in Galus. The only thing left is to do all in your power to actually bring Mashiach immediately. And now I give it over to you, the Rebbe said, to bring about the coming of Mashiach. After the powerful Farbrengen, the Hasidim all gathered together. What did the Rebbe mean? Could he not finish the job? Was he really waiting for us to do the rest? That Sunday, a woman came to the Rebbe for dollars. She turns to the Rebbe and said,
Rebbe, we was counting on you all those years for the Mashiach. Now you hang us on a tree. The second's too heavy for us. It's impossible. We want the Mashiach. I want my son.
If it is not possible for all to follow slow, then it is possible for me. I'm only one person.
You are
here.
But you will be waiting. You are our father. No way. I want my son. I want Mashiach now.
If I am a Rebbe, then I spoke clearly that it must be done by quality slow, you included, and this person included.
You're right, but he's still counting on you. We are counting on you.
If you are counting on me as a rabbi, you haven't seen my answer clearly, that it must be done by you and by you and by you.
Hard to watch her pain. And you can see she's speaking, in a way that people wouldn't speak if they weren't feeling it in such a gut-wrenching place. But the Rebbe was very clear. He's giving it over to you and you and you, and pointing to everyone in the crowd. We're those yous, girls. It's lying in our hands now. And I'm so grateful that we have such treasures here in Australia and international guest speakers. I got to partake in a beautiful and inspiring share this morning on the topic of Mashiach for women across the entire world, led by Mrs. Shapiro. And then here in our own Chabad Youth backyard, we're very grateful that she is going to be sharing some insights and reflections on what this special day means for all of us, especially as Hasidim. Thank you so much, Mrs. Shapiro.
Thank you so much. So girls, that was quite, excuse me a second, 1 second. That was quite a powerful talk, and that was quite a powerful interaction between this woman and the Rebbe. You can't help but cry when you see this, the pain that the woman's in and the pain that so many people are in, because Mashiach is just not here, and there's suffering and there's so much going on, and we just don't understand why is Mashiach not here yet. It doesn't make any sense. So before I start sharing with you like what I wanted to say, I wanted to know if anyone was brave enough to share with me how you are currently feeling about Mashiach's coming. What are your thoughts? Are you feeling excited? Are you feeling disappointed? Are you feeling what? Is anybody brave enough to share? Otherwise, Miri, it's going to be you.
Should I share? Should I share? Yeah, I'm happy to share.
Why don't you put your video on so we can see you?
Okay, wait 1 second. Yeah, can you see me?
Beautiful. Yes.
So, I mean, I feel like it's like, so some days we have more Mashiach, like days where like we really feel like, oh my God, dude, like literally Mashiach right now, and like that other days like we're like whatever, we're like more like, I don't know, we're just like sort of, if you'd call it, comfortable in Galus, and just like, I don't know, like whatever, like not really caring. I don't know. So, like, for example, like the first night of Pesach for me, like it was like literally on a high. Like my whole family was like singing. You know, we actually did a whole set in Gunim, like right before Tzafon. It was like we were literally, I can't tell you, it was probably one of the most highest moments of my life. We were literally like just, I don't know, we were singing. We were like all like Mashiach, and that day, like I was like, okay, we're gonna open the door. We're gonna steal a yarn of you. Like it was like without any like doubt. It was like like it was really Mashiach like atmosphere, and like we were actually so let down when like we opened the door and like Elio wasn't there. But like then there were other days, like there's other days when you just feel comfortable in God's and you're just like whatever. Like you don't feel like you're screaming out Masay with the truth. Like you don't. I don't know. It's just like I feel like you have some days and some days. Like
That
I
was
don't know.
really valuable input. Thank you so much. That was really valuable. I think you're expressing what a lot of people are feeling, a lot of people felt. I think I've heard from so many people that they open that door for Eli, and even grown people, grown Rabbonim, they opened the door for Elianovi and they just cried because he didn't show up. He just wasn't there. So, I mean, he was there, but not physically there. So, yeah, so I've heard that from a lot of people, and I hear what you're saying. Some days we feel in that space where we're like, Mashiach's coming today and we're so excited and it's going to happen, and other days you kind of forget about it, right? And necessarily. Yeah. Does anyone else want to share their thoughts? Anyone else brave? That was good, Chaimushka. Anyone else brave enough? No one brave enough. Oh, yes, we've got somebody. Is that, no? Anyone else putting up their hands? Okay, so you can at any point, like if you want to ask something, but I'll share some thoughts with you. And then at the end, perhaps I'll leave it open for some questions, because then you might just, have a bit more courage by then. But that was fantastic feedback. And I think you're reflecting a lot of thoughts that others are feeling. So I'm going to address some of those today. I'll just say that before Pesach, and everybody was on a high before Pesach, because everybody thought with everything going on and with Corona, and Mashiach is coming on Pesach. That was like what everybody was thinking. And I got a message from a woman in my community, and I've shared this a couple of times, but it's quite an important message. And she said to me, I'm really, really nervous. And I said, and this is after I've been pumping all my groups and my community with Mashiach, and that he's coming, and this is all a preparation for Mashiach. And she said, I'm very nervous about Mashiach. I said, what are you nervous about? And I thought maybe she was worried that when Mashiach comes, like she'll lose her job, or she won't have, she's fixing her house, or she's doing something, her money, or she's going to lose everything. Because a lot of people actually do think that when Mashiach comes, oh, we'll go to Eretz Yisrael, so like my house will be left behind, and what's going to happen with all my stuff, and what about all my friends, what about what's happening at school? It's just like they get more nervous than excited because they don't know what to expect. So obviously that's not the case, because the Rebbe teaches that, on the contrary, we'll have everything we have in Golus, but it will just be used in the right way. So we'll have our phone, but we'll use our phone to learn Torah. We'll use our phone to only speak nicely about others, etc. So I thought maybe that's why she was nervous. Of course she'll still have her house. Of course she'll still have everything. But she said, no, I'm actually really nervous because I don't want to build up my hopes high and then get really disappointed if he doesn't come. Which is what I'm hearing, is exactly what the sentiments that you expressed, that, you get so excited, and it's the nigunim, and it's the excitement, and the family, and he's about to walk in the door, and then you feel flat, like a balloon that's been burst because he didn't show up. So she said, maybe it's better that I don't lift my hopes up, because then I won't get disappointed. What if he's not really coming now? Like, what if he's actually not, not going to show up imminently? So I'll get back to what I said to her in a minute. Well, basically, I'll share that with you now, actually. I said to her, I hear what you're saying. I totally understand where you're coming from. I hear what you're saying. And it is scary, like to build your hopes up and the hopes of your children, and then they cry because he didn't show up, and then you get disappointed. I understand where you're coming from, but I just want you to know that we are riding on really strong shoulders, that the Rebbe has promised us that Mashiach is coming. He's promised us he's coming in this generation. It's not like you're going to build your hopes up and get, who says it's happening, who doesn't. Maybe in the past they didn't, it wasn't such a strong nevuah from a tzaddik to say he is coming in this generation. But the Rebbe clearly said he is coming in this generation. So I said to her, So you don't really have to worry about picking your hopes up and getting disappointed, because he's coming very, very soon. He is going to come. I said to her, but the only thing you've got to really be concerned about is not if he's coming or not, because that we have a promise from the Rebbe. That's not even a question. The thing, what we have to be nervous about is, what if Mashiach came today? How would we feel facing Mashiach and all the great tzaddikim? Would we be proud of who we are? Would we be proud of what we did today? Would we be proud of how we've prepared for Mashiach? I said to her, just for nerves, concerns, for whether you are ready, whether you're making yourselves actively ready for Mashiach. I said, that is what's most important. So I actually shared a story this morning on my shir that I'd like to share with you guys as well. And that story is about two brothers. And these two brothers were in a very, very big fight. And they didn't talk to each other for many, many years. Now, you know how it is with little kids that fight and they make up the next day because they'd rather be happy than be right. But adults, sometimes when they fight, years later, they don't even remember why they're fighting, but it's the principle, we're in a fight. So the brothers simply didn't talk to each other for many years. Anyway, one day the one brother was making a chasana, and he only had one sibling, his one brother, he had no other family, and he sent an invitation to the brother that he never spoke to, and he was hoping maybe the brother, maybe he'll change his mind and he'll have a heart and he'll join his simcha. Nothing, no response, no mazel tov, nothing. So he was really despondent and really disappointed because he didn't even understand why his brother wasn't talking to him. He couldn't understand, never understood what he did wrong. He didn't understand what he ever did to deserve this. So coming closer and closer to the wedding, it was really bothering him. He was really, really worried, and he was really upset and really, really concerned him. So what he decided to do was he decided that on the day of the wedding, he was going to bring the chassan and the kala and a big orchestra and musicians with lots of music. And he was going to walk straight after the chuppah. They were going to walk the streets with all the musicians, and they'd walk past his brother's home. So that's what they did. And he took all these musicians and he took everybody. They went past the brother's home. And as they were going past the brother's home, the brother was just sitting in quietly, and he suddenly hears music from a distance. And he suddenly hears, what is this celebration? What is going on? And he opens up his window and he sees like a people dancing with a chuppah, because they'd obviously taken the chuppah, they were dancing. Everybody's dancing and happy, and the musicians are singing, and he sees the chassan and the kala, and he sees his brother. And suddenly his heart completely melted. His heart completely melted, and he just started to cry, and he broke down like a little child, and he just opened the door and ran down the stairs and ran out the house and ran to his brother, and he hugged his brother, and he hugged him, and he hugged him, and he just, started dancing with him. And after a few minutes, he's noticing people are starting to look funny at him. They're like looking at him weirdly. And he's thinking, what is going on? Why are they looking at me strangely? And then he looks at himself and he realizes that he's still wearing his pajamas. How embarrassing. So the analogy, this is a mashal, and the nimshal is that Mashiach is coming. The Rebbe said Mashiach is coming. He's on the way. He's already down the street. He's near our house. He's there very, very close. He's coming. The music's coming. Mashiach. He's on the way. He's coming. The question is, how are we going to greet Mashiach? Will we be ready? Will we be ready to greet him? Will we be proud of where we are? And we cannot give up faith, and we cannot give up hope. We cannot for a second give up in believing that any minute Mashiach is coming. So I'm going to share another story with you that I shared last week in a different discussion. There's a story in the Gemara. The story in the Gemara is a story about, story is told that one year, a lot of Jewish people came up to Yerushalayim. It was one of the Yom Tovim, and they went to Yerushalayim. But unfortunately, there was a drought, and there wasn't enough water. So there was a very wealthy man in Yerushalayim, Nakdim ben Gurion, and he went to one of the Roman leaders at the time, and he said to him, please, can you lend me 12 wells of water, amounts of 12, and I promise you I will give this water back to you within a year. And if I don't give the water back to you within a year, then I will give you a huge amount of money instead. So the Romans, okay, fine, I'll lend it to you, no problem, because he was obviously very wealthy. He had stocked up a lot of water, even though there was a drought. And Nakdim ben Gurion was able to give water to all the people to drink, and he was really happy that he was able to help so many people. But the problem was, for an entire year, there was no rain. It was a terrible, terrible drought. And the time came, the day arrived, his final day, the deadline, when he was supposed to give back the water. It was the water or the money. So this Roman, leader, he sends a messenger to Nakdim ben Gurion, and he says to him, I want my water or my money. So Nakdim ben Gurion says, don't worry, I've still got a whole day. And of course, he's really strongly believing in Hashem, and he's saying, Hashem's going to help. I know Hashem's going to help. I've got an entire day to get the water. Comes to the middle of the day, he gets another message. I want my water or my money. Nakdim ben Gurion says, Hashem is able to do anything. I've got plenty of time. There's hours left till the end of the day. Don't worry. Well, anyway, this Roman governor, he goes to the bathhouse, and he's so excited. He's relaxing in the bath. He knows he's going to be a very wealthy man very soon, because if the water hasn't come down till now for an entire year, it's not coming. There's no chance in the world. Nakdim ben Gurion went to the Beis HaMikdash, and he put on his tallis, and he cried with all his heart to Hashem. And he said, Hashem, you know, I did not do this for myself. I did not do this for my honor or my family's honor. I did it to give your children water who came to the Beis HaMikdash to be with you, who came to want to spend Ola Regel in Yerushalayim. He said, Hashem, I'm begging you, please help me. And this was already getting late, and it was already getting, clock was ticking. And as he finishes all his davening and all his tefillah, suddenly there are the dark clouds appear in the sky, and rain starts to fall. And the rain's falling, and it's pouring, and he manages to gather enough water, exactly the amount he needed to bring back to the Roman governor. Roman governor calls for his water, calls for his money. He says, I've got something better for you. I've got the water. I've actually got the water for you. Roman governor says, sorry, too late. Can't you see it's dark in the sky? Too bad, too late. You missed your opportunity. It was meant to be by today, not tonight. So Nakdim ben Gurion goes back to the Beis HaMikdash, and he puts his tallis back on again, and he davens to Hashem, and he says, Rabbeinu Shalom, please, I'm begging you, show the world that there are those in this world that you love. Show the nations of the world that you love us. And all of a sudden, when all seemed lost, and when it was dark, And when nobody could imagine it would happen, suddenly the clouds parted and the sun started to shine. A miracle. This is a man, Nachman ben Gurion, who had unbelievable, true emunah, real emunah, that Hashem was going to help him, that Hashem was going to take him out of his situation, out of his golus, and Hashem was going to bring a Yeshua to him, and Hashem was going to help. This is real emunah, to really, really believe. The Rebbe said that if there were 10 people who really, really, genuinely believe, and I like what Chaim Mushka said before, because some days we believe and some days we don't, we're not so sure, we forget we're even in Golus, we get on with our life. But what the Rebbe meant was, well, I can't say what the Rebbe meant, but what I'm suggesting is that if there were 10 people who never forgot for 1 second that, you know, and they really, really wanted it every moment, and they lived with this thought at every moment, then Mashiach would come. But we're like that. We go up, we go down. Do we really have that real emunah, that real bitachon? So that's what the Rebbe wanted. He wanted us to really, really, really believe. And when you think it's dark, like now, a lot of people are really down because of what's happening in the world and what's happening to people they love. And you think, why is, you know, such great people that Hashem is taking from us? And it seems so dark in so many ways, but you know what? When it's really dark, that's when the clouds part. That's when the sun shines. So when you say, oh, I'm so disappointed, he didn't walk through the door, Eliyahu, he didn't show up. Do you know what? It's exactly then, exactly at those moments. That's when Mashiach's coming. He's literally going to come. It's like when you think, oh, at this last, like when you really, really think this is so dark, this is the last second that we say, do not give up hope. Do not give up faith, because at that minute, that is when Mashiach is going to come. So what the most important thing we need to take out of Chof Nissan, and this is something that Mrs. Lipsko raised, what's most important is that the Rebbe said that we have to do our bit. And what does that actually mean? What can we do to prepare? And the Rebbe said in his talk, I'm leaving it to you. What does that mean? The Rebbe was such a great tzaddik. Why did he have to leave it to us? He's so great. Couldn't he bring Mashiach? Look what the Rebbe said to this woman who was crying. And the Rebbe said, I'm telling you, it's you and you and you, not me. It's you that has to bring Mashiach. So sometimes we feel to ourselves, we kind of think to ourselves, it's just me. I'm just a small person. I'm not really, like, who am I? You know, there are people who are doing big things in the world. There are very great, you know, great people, and there are leaders, and there are people who are saving lives, and there are people who are sending planes to help people. There are, you know, great holy people doing mitzvahs. There are people creating vaccines to help people live. There are people teaching Torah. Like, really? Well, who? You know, especially as a young person, and, you know, only young and in school, you think, so who am I? What's me? I'm not a tzaddikus. I'm not a tzaddik. I'm not doing any big things. I'm not achieving huge things. There are greater people in this world than me. How am I going to make a difference? What am I going to do? What is it going to mean? What does it make a difference? So girls, it's really important to know and to think about what the Rambam says. And the Rambam says that we have to imagine that the world is like on a set of scales, right? You know these scales, that old-fashioned kitchen scales? Have you seen those old-fashioned business scales? So basically you put something on it and it just tips the scale. So the Rambam says one Aveira that we do can literally affect the entire world. And he says, if that's so with an Aveira, one mitzvah that one person does, that one mitzvah can affect the entire world. So, you know, girls, there are times you might be going to sleep at night and you're in bed and you forgot to bring the Nagelwasser. You're just too tired to get up and get that Nagelwasser. Oh, so I won't have it. I'll do it tomorrow. And then there are times when it's getting, you know, later in the day and you're in the middle of doing something and you think, I really don't want to interrupt what I'm doing to daven mincha. I just like listen mincha for a day. Or in the morning, you get up and you're talking with your friends on the phone and you're on the computer and you're doing this and you're doing that. And it's like your mother says, have you davened yet? And you're like, yeah, I'll daven. There are days, these things happen, right? There are times when you're chalishing to tell your friend a really good piece of Lashon Hara. Did you know what this and this person said? Did you know what this and this person did? Everybody has times when they, you know, they just, you know, want to put that effort in, or you're just really tempted. You know, you think, oh, I take a hachlata, and in my hachlata, I'm going to say Tehillim every day. And one day comes, and you're busy and you're doing it. Okay, so we don't say it one day. What's the difference? Actually, on this point, I was told a story actually by one of the Bachrim who were shluchim by us, that his grandfather made a hachlata to say a certain amount of Tehillim every single day. And he did it for years and years and years. And one day, and I don't remember the reason he couldn't do it, but it was a legitimate reason. I don't remember if he wasn't feeling what, there was something legitimate he didn't do his Tehillim. Anyway, it happened. Shortly after that, he wrote to the Rebbe about something. He had to ask the Rebbe a question about something, and he wrote to the Rebbe. And the Rebbe answered, and at the bottom of the letter, the Rebbe wrote, and by the way, what's with the Tehillim? Wow, the Rebbe knew. One day he missed, and the impact it had on the entire world, the energy of the world, the Rebbe felt the one day's missing Tehillim from one chassid. Can you imagine that? You think, what's my davening, or my Tehillim, or my chitas, or my this, or my that? One day. And the Rebbe wrote, so what's with the Tehillim? Imagine, everything we decide and everything we do, we think, oh, who's going to know the difference? What difference does it really make to the world, to the scheme of things, to Mashiach? But you know what? It makes a difference, because that one achlata that we keep and that we take, and that one mitzvah that we do can literally tip the entire scales of the energy of the world, and can literally be that one mitzvah that brings Mashiach. There's a story actually that Avram Fried relates how he had a dream, or well, I don't know if he told a lot of people, but his son was by us in Shlucha, so he told us this story. So I don't know if it's very well known or anything, but his son said one night he had a dream of the Rebbe, and he was in 770, and the Rebbe tapped him on his shoulder, just like this, and he turned around, and the Rebbe said, that's how Mashiach's going to come. Just like this. All of a sudden, you're going to be doing what you're doing, and just like this, the Rebbe's going to, just like this, Mashiach is going to come and tap us on our shoulders. All of a sudden, just like this. So the question is, A, will we be proud of who we are, or will we be embarrassed? Hopefully we'll be proud. And B, will we feel like we contributed to this amazing, amazing arrival of Mashiach? So let's go back to what the Rebbe talked about on Chof Ches Nissan. Does it really make a difference? What difference does it make if we cry and we ask from Hashem to bring Mashiach? Does it really make such a difference? So girls, I'm sure you know the story of the Bnei Salafchad, who didn't get a portion in Eretz Yisrael, and they came to Moshe Rabbeinu and said, it's not fair, we didn't get a portion in Eretz Yisrael. You know, we don't have the male lineage to go with, and it's not fair that we are left with nothing. And Moshe Rabbeinu went and said to Hashem, listen, you know, they've complained. And Hashem actually said, you're right. You know what? When we turn to Hashem and we complain, so to speak, we cry out, Ad Masai, and we cry to Hashem and we say, it's not fair, Mashiach's not here, please, please bring Mashiach. And we do as many mitzvahs as we can to do Mashiach. Those mitzvahs that we do, and the crying and the reaching out to Hashem, that's going to make Hashem say, you're right. You're right. I should bring Mashiach. I should make it happen. That's what the Rebbe is saying. It's not up to me. It's up to you. And it's up to you. And it's up to you. It's your one mitzvah. It's your one tefillah. It's your one thing that is going to make a difference. So girls, next time you do not feel like doing that one mitzvah and you're too lazy and you don't feel like getting out of bed or you're just in the mood or whatever it is, don't think. You kid yourself and think that it's not going to be noticed, that it's not going to make any difference to the scheme of things because other people are doing mitzvahs and who cares because so many other people in the world do mitzvahs. Mashiach's going to come, will come. Anyway, don't think like that, because I want you to think again, because it could be that very mitzvah that you're about to do or not do that could tip the scales and bring Mashiach. Could be Mashiach's waiting for your one mitzvah. Don't underestimate it. That's what the Rebbe means when he says it's up to us. Hashem wants us to make it happen. He wants a dira b'tachtonim. He wants us to put the effort in. He wants us to do it. And the other thing the Rebbe said is that it's really, really important that we learn about Mashiach. And there were many, many sichos the Rebbe taught, and the Rebbe spoke about, in an Aleph Nun Beis in particular, when he spoke about the concept of Mashiach and the reality of Mashiach. And the Rebbe said it's very, very important to learn the sichos and to learn Chassidus, all the teachings of the Rabbeim, and everything to do with Mashiach, the halachos of Mashiach and the Chassidus related to it. Because when we do that, not only are we preparing ourselves, but we're actually bringing the energy of Mashiach into this world. And that's the one of the very specific missions the Rebbe left us with. He said, your Ikar Shlichus, very, very important right now, is to learn about Mashiach and prepare yourself for Mashiach. And when you learn about Mashiach, you get excited about Mashiach and you think more about Mashiach, and it becomes more of a reality in our lives when we learn about Mashiach. So it's really, really important. I mean, girls, I'm sure you have access to amazing teachers and amazing, just ask them to help. Teach us more about Mashiach, because girls, if you do that, you will become inspired. So girls, just to conclude, I just want to tell you, do not give up hope. Never, ever give up hope, because Mashiach is coming, and he's coming very, very soon. We just have to think to ourselves every day. You know, it says in the Pirkei Avos that a person should look at their every day of their life as if it's the last day of their life. That's how we should live our days, because we don't know. So every day we should be able to say, we'll face Hashem and be proud of who we are. The same way, every single day of our life, we should live for Mashiach if he came today. That's what we have to do. And we should ask and we should daven. And girls, guaranteed that if everyone here in this Farbrengen takes on one achlata, it's 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 + 1. If not small, because none of the achlatas are small. They're very important achlatas. So if everybody takes an achlatas, Emir Hashem, your contribution and your hachlotas will absolutely make a difference in the coming of Mashiach. So that's the thoughts I want to leave you with. And if anybody has any questions, you're welcome to ask. Otherwise, I'll hand you back over to Mrs. Lipska, who I'm sure has other valuable things to say. You can unmute yourself if you want to ask any questions, but otherwise, does anybody have the courage to speak? No questions. That's a good thing. That's not bad. I can see you, Freda. Hi.
Well, that was so incredible. I'm just thrilled that I got to partake personally, because this was such an amazing, empowering, and practical share. To continue on the line of learning in Yom Mashiach Geula, I actually heard last night from Rabbi Leader, who was leading a woman's share, that your grandfather, you said in the name of your grandfather, wrote into the Rebbe and asked, what does this all mean? Handing it over to us, and the Rebbe responded, I think it was a week and a half later, that the method for us is to learn in Yom Mashiach Geula. And he was specifically writing for Australia. So we wanted to start now. I posted in the group chat my mobile number. And if you message my mobile number, just the word Mashiach or just, hi, I want to receive it, we're going to start putting out a weekly practical thought that's catered for high school students specifically. In Yana Mashiach and Geula, sometimes there's going to be questions and answers about the times that we have to get ourselves psyched about. And sometimes it'll be just different thoughts and reflections. Because like Mrs. Shapiro said, this is the way that we're going to get ourselves ready. And I want to end off this beautiful, beautiful share, which was so eloquently given and delivered, with a little tiny thought that reflecting on one hand, we're like all getting psyched for Mashiach, because like it feels like something times just so crazy that something massive has to be happening. On the other side, it's like such sad things happening. So we kind of feel like, what are we celebrating? Like, how are we getting to like, Mashiach's coming because people are dying? And because, you know, we're all taught about the responsibility here that each of us have, literally sharing in a health sense and all the other details of how we impact the world. And I was speaking to one of Menachem's cousins before Pesach, and she was describing like every single school, all of us, right? We all went to different schools, or maybe not all to different schools, a few different schools here represented. We all had a Mora who got dressed up like Miriam and Yocheved, and there was always a baby Moshe, and they acted out the whole scene, and it's part of like the story of Geula, of Mitzrayim. And Menachem's cousin, Mrs. Krasniansky, was describing that scene of, you know, putting the baby in the basket and all the gorgeous things we know are going to happen, and Basi's hand's going to extend. It wasn't happy and all fun and games then. She was sitting here taking her own precious baby, putting him into what she thought would be a watery coffin. She took Moshe Rabbeinu, she had to put him in the grave. Now she, I'm sure, had deeply rooted faith that Hashem's going to make this story all work out. But there was nothing that they were celebrating then. Everyone was shaking and terrified and in such pain to be putting her baby in. But now, all of our schools celebrate it because it's part of the story of Geula. It's part of how we get to that, right? We all know this whole process of Moshe Rabbeinu being led into Basi's house and all of that. And we end up getting to Geula through this story that then was so terrible. So it's true that right now the times that we're living in are not beautiful, but they're part of our Geula story. There are terrible birth pains, and yes, we know before every mother has a baby, even if she has relatively the easiest of births, it's not fully fun and games. It's difficult, and we're feeling very, very, very difficult now at birth pains. It's difficult for every single person who's signed in tonight on a different level. It's difficult on a huge, terrible level for some people who have, you know, personally had losses, but all of us have lost something, lost some levels of freedom, lost what we usually interact with, social interaction. Recognize all these difficulties are like, exactly as Mrs. Shapiro described, that darkest point that comes right before the dawn. It's going to be the story of Geula. When we tell our kids about the crazy times we lived through, we're going to be like, could you imagine? And then the shofar blew, and this is how it all ended. And we were like, oh my goodness. And everything looking back just fits into the picture of how we got to Geula. So thank you, girls, for taking the time tonight to be part of something that's, I know it takes a lot in the end of the day to click on the link, but it does. To take that time and to say, I'm going to prioritize logging on to learn something, to get myself inspired and focused. Thank you so much, Mrs. Shapiro, because unbeatably, that was amazing, incredible, and I'm so glad I got to learn from it as well. And then once again, in the group chat, you can jot down my number if you don't have it yet. Message me. I've already seen a bunch of messages coming through. You can just write Mashiach or I want to sign up, and it's not going to be a WhatsApp group. It's just you're going to receive your own message, like a broadcast that'll come through, and you can learn a thought. So thank you all so much for joining. Mashiach now. Hopefully our next share will meet all together live in Yerushalayim. Habanuyah.
Mira, can I just add something? I know my friend Malke Devonta, she's actually making a Indiana Mashiach, like a Mashiach type of chat. So I can maybe like post the link on the chat part of this Zoom, just if anyone wants to join us, just the Mashiach type of thing. So
beautiful. Thank you. For sure, do that. That would be great. If you can post it now, I'm going to stop the recording, and then we're going to soon sign off. So post it now so girls can see it. Thank you all so much for joining.